Stick around for the end of the episode to see what school record I break and whether or not I win the Heisman and if we make the national championship game. There are 3 games left in the season, and I'm currently ranked 2nd in the Heisman standings. I started the first of our last 3 games playing against Houston. I was in a 2-man race for the Heisman at this point, and it was between me, a scrambling quarterback getting nearly 1.5K rushing yards, and a pure passer named Noah Fafita out of Arizona. I couldn't get too wrapped up in the Heisman though. The Heisman was a side quest to the main goal of getting to the national championship game. Even though Houston was unranked, they were a solid 7-2 team. All the experiences that I've had over the course of my career kept me on my toes this season and against any matchup. Getting sloppy on a few drives on offense can be devastating and it can derail your whole year. I had to maintain a Kobe-like focus on that goal to the point of it becoming an obsession. One thing that people don't consider about college players, though, is that all the time that you spend traveling outside of actually playing the game each week. This weekend, I got to spend some time with my teammates exploring Houston. Each NFL city I went to at this point, I was imagining what it would be like to be the quarterback of that team. So I tried it out for Houston, but it didn't really make sense because they had CJ Stroud, who was going crazy at quarterback and in contention for the MVP. And some fans would say that I should be practicing more because we're tied with an unranked Houston team, and I would never hear the end of it if we lost this game. But we got bailed out on 4th and inches when I got strip sacked, but it ended up being an offsides penalty. We got a new set of downs, and with my next opportunity on 1st and goal, I rolled out and I found Carson Gay, who has been lighting it up the last few weeks. Gay's been consistently a weapon for me, and Chris Bell has shown some flashes after having a great junior season, but my number 1 guy was Rich Crawford, and he had dropped off in production after a great first half of the season. If we were going to win versus any top 5 team right now, I would need him back as my definitive wide receiver 1. After throwing the ball down the field vertically so much, it really opened up running lanes for me. Like I've said before, teams cannot be playing man defense against me. I kept it on a read option, and I took it for a touchdown, juking out a few DBs on the way. We had a comfortable 2-score lead nearing the 4th quarter, but we wanted more separation and we needed a blowout to increase our odds of moving up in the top 25 rankings, so we were really pushing ourselves to continue scoring. I took a hit late in the 3rd quarter and I definitely felt it, and then on the following play I got pressured and pushed out of the pocket, and instead of sliding I took another hit and I was down on the ground. I tried getting back up, but I couldn't put any pressure on my ankle. I was about to cry. I thought I would be out for the rest of the season. I thought our hopes of making the national championship, or my hopes of winning the Heisman, were just over. I had to be helped off the field by my teammates. I couldn't finish the rest of the game, but we did squeak out the win narrowly. I was diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, which can be a to come back from. The timeline is usually 4 to 6 weeks, but I told coach that I was playing in our last 2 games, no matter what. I just couldn't be running the ball nearly as much as if I wanted to recover a little bit. He didn't want me to injure myself any further because I would be able to be back in time for our postseason normally. I assured him that I would try to keep from scrambling as much as I could these last 2 games, and that gave me the opportunity to add more of my pure passing on tape. For all the scouts and agents who doubted my abilities, this would be like my flu game. Except in my first game without the ability to run much, I struggled a bit to adjust. I was so used to bailing out of the pocket anytime I had pressure that it was weird for me to have to throw the ball away against Charlotte. Their defense had prepped all week for my backup, expecting me to definitely be out this game, but in the 2nd quarter, I made my first big mistake as a pure pocket passer, underthrowing the out route and getting picked off by a Charlotte DB. I made up for it though with a touchdown throw to Elijah Downing before the end of the first half to put some more distance between us and Charlotte. In the 2nd half, we played much more of a pro-style offense and relied more on the running game to get us home. Maurice Turner broke one from our 35-yard line and took it to the house, and then on the following possession, we ran a fake read option that I ended up handing off to Walters for another score, and we walked away with an easy W. After the win, we hadn't moved up from the 5 spot in the standings, but my teammates told me how much they appreciated me battling out there and fighting through pain to be on the field with them. I had a chance to look at Noah Fafita's stats, and he was having an insane season with 54 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions, and we actually moved down from the 5 spot down to the 6th spot after our win versus Charlotte. We still had an outside shot of making it to the national championship game if Oregon and Arizona played against each other in the Pac-12 championship, and if Syracuse and Clemson played against each other in the ACC championship game. Our last game of the season was against Ruckers, and we were still ranked 5th in the college football playoff standings. We would need a lot of dominoes to fall our way. Aside from winning and playing well this week, there wasn't a championship game in our American Conference, so we wouldn't get an extra game to prove ourselves. We need teams to beat each other in the Big 5 Conference Championship week next week if we're going to make the Natty. Since this was our last opportunity to showcase what we brought to the table, we were going to go all out against Ruckers. I was also trying to keep the Heisman Trophy away from Noah Fafita, so I needed a good game personally too. My ankle had recovered a bit since the previous week, and I didn't practice all week either, but I was definitely still feeling pain if I made any sudden movements or started sprinting. I had PT staff make sure I was as numbed up as I could be, and I wasn't too worried about about any long-term risks of playing on a bad ankle. I knew that if I made it through this game in one piece, we'd at least have a couple of weeks until our bowl game, depending on which one we were in. If we were in the national title game, then of course, I'd have a lot of time to rest beforehand. Ruckers clearly didn't read the scouting report before the game though. Any slight movement I made outside the pocket pulled the defenders toward me, and I was very willing to keep my eyes downfield and throw it instead of taking a massive hit. Of course, sometimes sacks are unavoidable, but I found Wells for a touchdown in the back right corner to get us to 14 before the end of the first quarter. Like I said though, we're piling it on this game and we're not using the brakes even once. We had scored 2 more quick touchdowns, passing the ball down the field to get up to 28 points in the first half. And in the second half, it was more of the same. It didn't matter that Rutgers only had 7 points. We were playing against ourselves all day long. I had 450 passing yards to start the fourth quarter, which might have been a career high for me. With 3 minutes left in the game, I didn't even realize that scoring my next touchdown would break the Louisville passing touchdowns record held by Teddy Bridgewater. I was surprised with how much I used my legs that I had the all-time single-season records for passing touchdowns out of all the historical Cardinals quarterbacks. I ended up finishing the game with a Heisman-like stat line of 35 for 43 for 480 passing yards and 6 touchdowns. After going undefeated, of course we won the American Conference, and individually I ended up finishing 6th for the Maxwell Award, which I thought was kind of crazy. Noah Fafita ended up winning the award, but I was super happy to win the Walter Camp Award again, which factored in my versatility as a runner. The Heisman votes came out, and I was shocked to have been invited out to New York City to lose the award by a total of 66 points. But I guess all I can do now is tip my hat and congratulate Noah Fafita, who also had a great season. Now that the award season was over, it was time to see our bowl game.